So Scott, hello. Hello
Hello,
everybody.
hello.
Scott and Roosh back on it.
Back on it again.
And today we're going to talk about AI.
Yes, the big topic that everyone is talking about at some point, whether they want to or not.
Yes. What so you decided on this topic, and I guess was there a particular reason that you decided to start with AI?
Um, well, yeah, kind of. I mean, it's a meaty subject for one. It's like not that hard to talk about for a long
No,
period of
it's
time.
not.
But we're also kind of in the point where maybe a year, 2 years ago, it was like, oh my god, AI is amazing. It's taking over. We had services like Dolly generating like 2D art, and you could kind of see it. But now we're kind of at the phase where those early concepts have been drastically improved upon in a short amount of time, and it's much more noticeable. You know, the services
Absolutely.
the services we have now for AI are pretty top tier. There's I mean, I'm in gaming industry, so it's uh, it's definitely kind of taboo, especially at my company. But we'll get into the taboo stuff later because that's the part I think I'm most interested in. But
Okay.
yeah, I think in general, right now AI is in a really good place so far, and it kind of does all the things you'd want it to do. You can already see like that horizon of job replacement is maybe sooner than we initially expected.
Yes. And that's a really interesting thing that you say that. Because I code,
Hmm.
and I mean, I use two or three different AIs when I code, and that's not even just like uh on purpose. Like, you just add like one extension and then another extension, and then you're like,
Yeah,
oh, I'm also using Chat GPT.
yeah.
So you've got like two AI extensions in your IDE, and then you are also using Chat GPT. So you're like bouncing off of three or four different AIs just to
Oh yeah,
create some code. And it's like, wait, that just happened in like last year I wasn't even really using any AI. And the reason is because, and I think the difference between ChatGPT 4 and ChatGPT 4.0, and actually since I code also, Amazon Q as a coding extension is really good. People like don't know about Q because I think that's more of a business side tool. Amazon, like AWS,
yeah,
is a business product. It's not a consumer product where Amazon.com or the Kindle, those are consumer products. But I mean, ChatGPT 4 to ChatGPT 4.0 was absolutely massive. Like 4.0 turned it into a whole different ballgame.
yeah. And it's starting to get better at doing more macro things. It's always been like pretty useful on the micro scale, and that's still probably how it should be used. You can't really just go in and be like, "Hey, make me an app from start to finish" or anything like that. But I don't know, dude. We might be there one day. You can definitely say like, "Hey, I need to figure out how to write this function so that it doesn't so that it's set up in a way that I can edit it later and change what it does for these purposes or whatnot." And yeah, it'll give you a good block to go off of. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's at the point where you can just be like, "Hey, just do everything for me," or
No,
yeah, or just like an entire script. There's always going to be some issues and errors that you got to kind of parse through here or there.
I I think, the founder of Oracle, I forget Larry Ellison, he has a video where you can see him speaking about organized data,
Hmm.
and he talks about AI using organized data. So I do some data engineering, data schema, which is
Hmm.
like how is your data structured, and then your workflow engine.
Yeah.
So I think those two things, your data schema and your workflow engine, because this is what you're talking about. You don't want your AI to do everything. And I think right now we are kind of in that point where most people are just like, this is, you can't, like, for one example, having a bunch of documents, like
Hmm.
20 years of documents, and you're just like, tell me something about, say it's like a company and they have 20 years of documents and they want an AI to just ingest that and spit it out to them. That might be possible,
Hmm.
but the functionality of that won't be that great. And to go back to organize, and the reason I believe that is because yes, we have chatbots, but what about like decision makers? What about AIs that can take in information and you know be an agent? And I think that's going to require setting up context.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true. I mean, just in gaming alone, there's so much stuff that you can now also do as like an individual creator, right? Like my company might be anti AI. I don't really need it for my job anyway. I'm too low rung. I know some. I don't think the engineers do it either. I think we are allowed to use Copilot. It's like the only one we can do. I don't really use it that much at all, but the point is, if you are an indie developer and you're on your own, there's already a service for music generation, right? You can do your game music on your own on Suno.
And
There's
it's
already
good.
code editors, right? You can use Cursor, you can use Chat GPT 4.0, you can use those. You can do 3D models. They have a 3D model one as well.
The generators.
Yeah, exactly. So like it's kind of boiling down to it's a lot of people on Fiverr that you could commission for types of those works, and why do you need to commission anyone where you can just pay these monthly subs and kind of generate exactly what you want through just screwing around and seeing what the outputs you get are. So yeah, it's kind of getting to the point where I think the individual creators and the much smaller scale people are starting to get empowered by 3D artwork is no joke. That's something that usually bigger companies will have an entire team, but if you can use your AI to make enough outputs to make your shit work, then it's like, oh, I'm a one man team doing 6 people of labor, and then you do like music, and it's like, well, that's a music guy we don't have to hire. That's all this sort of stuff, and like, yeah, it's gonna be pretty nuts when everything is a little more polished, like even just 1 or 2 more years.
I agree. I don't think it's that far off.
Yeah.
And do you know who Rick Rubin is?
Ooh, yeah, he's a music producer, right?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
saw a meme, and the meme was the last person with a job with a when AI hits
Hmm.
is going to be, and it's Rick Rubin.
Yeah.
And that makes a lot of sense. I think being a creative, having ideas, those people are going to be so empowered. Where I think that we still have a long way to go until things like hard engineering is really able to be made artificial, like artificial intelligence does it better than a human.
Hmm.
But for easier problems, and for my company in particular, Zayuk, we're an HOA management smart community software company, and we
Yeah.
actually take 3D models. Like we fly a drone over properties and we do like 3D models of the
You do the
property,
the photogrammetry stuff. Yeah.
photogrammetry stuff, exactly,
Yeah.
and integrate that with our app. And so I don't think AIs can read 3D models yet. I think they still need 2D models. I don't think, based off of what I've seen, I haven't seen in it. Do
Yeah.
you, because you,
No.
you talked about the generator.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I saw. There's some applications where you can convert 2D art to 3D, and then they also have like 3D based off just like what you put in a prompt. So far we have that, but like I guess you couldn't really I mean, I don't think there's anything yet where it's like you take pictures of all four sides of like a building and then it just gives you a 3D model of like the layout or like
Well, that's photogrammetry.
yeah, exactly. But I mean, it would also have to guess what the interior would be like. If you wanted like full building blueprints, I guess it could access maybe like a database of just floor plans from that area or whatever. But yeah, I don't think it's quite at that level. I know you can do photogrammetry on cell phones because when I worked at Apple, I had this big sort of idea, just too far out of my reach, but essentially it was doing photogrammetry on buildings, and then you could make a surface layer on a building and then use that in augmented reality space to run advertisements.
But
So,
you're right.
what? Yeah. And they were already kind of doing that at Apple. I know Google's been doing it a little more with their mapping systems as well. Is they're not only just mapping the locations of things, but they're getting 3D models of all the major buildings and whatnot. And I think once we get to the point where AR is like a little more casually used, because right now it's still, people thought it was going to be a little more used, and it's still quite a gimmick. But like, I don't know, dude. I would be putting like McDonald's coupons and ads like all over Burger King, all over Wendy's, all over Jack in the Box, because technically it's not a physical thing, so they don't necessarily own the space.
I
They're
think
probably
that
taking,
you're right.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think you're right with what you say, but when it becomes like, as you said, it's still very niche. Like, and I
hmm
think the reason is because the tools are very niche. Like, did you see the new um
Facebook stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
that looked incredible. That looked like it could be something that people use, but I still question the glasses. I don't think people want to wear glasses. And there was Tom Brady just did like a Super Bowl thing in a hologram. I don't know how that hologram was done, but I still think it won't be glasses. I think people are not that into putting things onto their face. I know Apple just rolled back on their Vision Pro production,
yeah.
and so
I had a friend who got that.
what?
I had a friend who got that.
The
Um,
Vision Pro, what did they
yeah.
think?
Oh, he said he absolutely loved it and would use it to essentially do work. He'd wear it to the bathroom to take shits, and he would entertain himself while on the toilet. Um, and then I didn't hear from him for a while, and later on he was like, "Oh yeah, that only lasted like a month," and then I stopped like even taking it out of the box to do anything with.
Really?
Yeah, so he was like, it's kind of the same with like when I got a VR headset. I was using it quite a bit for gaming or just like seeing what's cool, watching Netflix from like within there, and yeah, and porn obviously. But then it just became too much effort to like set it up, to make sure the battery's charged, that sort of stuff.
It it just seems like something that people wouldn't want to do. I did one thing in Microsoft, like a Microsoft store, and I saw like this whale swim by me. I think the whole scene is called like Blue Whale,
Oh yeah,
but it it was not. I mean, people just don't want to put massive headsets on. I think that's at the end of the day. Like,
no, but the glasses, I don't know. Anthony
I
had
don't
some
think the
AR
glasses
glasses,
go.
and he would be, I don't know, it's still kind of like a fascination thing where he used to wear them like on our walks, and he'd just be like watching shit on YouTube out of the corner of his eye, like while we
Really?
were walking the dog or whatever. But yeah, it's not something he does anymore. So like he must have gotten over the initial fascination with it.
It. We'll see
Yeah.
where it goes. But going back to the 3D models,
hmm
I think, you know, that's Web3. And so you talked about Google creating buildings,
hmm
and creating 3D models. And it's once AI is able to read 3D files,
Hmm.
then it's going to be on another level. And I think that will probably come within the next, I have no idea. I believe they can't read 3D models at the moment. I believe there's no AI available that can take a 3D model, take the metadata inside that model, as well as the context of the visualization across the model,
Yeah.
and make just understand it, I guess would be the best way. I think they're still stuck at 2D. But when they do get to 3D, then companies like mine, Zayuk,
Hmm.
we will be ready. That's the thing. We will be ready for it, and we'll be ready for it.
Oh, well, when you say you'll be ready, you mean you're going to end up using those softwares to benefit your work, right?
Customers.
Yeah, customers and or work. Um, that's what.
Yes.
Yeah, but
Because, then it's like if you have an AI that can read 3D files, then it literally can see everything in the association. And then if you have metadata tagged back to some objects within that model,
hmm.
you can reference that metadata into, your workflow engine, and then the AI is just making decisions, and it knows everywhere that every little piece of data and where that is in the model. And kind of, if you say, for us, say you get like a service request in a particular spot, and you
Hmm.
take a picture of it and you send that over. Well, usually you have to get a human being to see that. Then they use that with the context of whatever that person put in their description, and then they're going to make a decision.
Hmm.
Well, if the AI can take that image, understand that person's context as well, and then they already know everything in, like, the whole they already know the visual reference. They have a visual reference of the association. They're going to be able to make decisions really well compared to if they didn't have that context set up for them.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. But I mean, I see kind of the parallels. I've recently made a tool that's like automated a lot of my workflows, and I find myself at work like it took maybe 2 3 days of work and kind of condensed it to like a 30-minute block. Like that's how ridiculous it ended up being for my job. But I still find like, oh, even that 30 minutes is too long. Let me see what I can add here. I'll spend, several hours working on this tool just to like try and cut it down to like 20 or 15 or just automate out everything. And that's kind of essentially what you're describing with that whole workflow of your business. Like it's going to be completely automated out for you where you like it's not even something you need to think about because it's just going to be a closed loop system.
I think so. And I think the most important part of that, again, is the data schema and the workflow engine. I think if you can have a data schema that makes sense and works within the context of the problem you're solving,
Hmm.
and a workflow engine that's able to feed your software the data it needs at the time it needs it, then it will just happen. Like you'll just get to the point where it's like, I mean, there'll be a lot of work to do about, like, for example, I actually just got the iPhone 16, and so it's got Apple Intelligence. And
Hmm.
so how it's really interesting. I don't know, I haven't had the iPhone. I haven't had a recent iPhone.
Been an Android boy.
No, I'm sorry. I just haven't upgraded in a long
Oh,
time.
you've had it old.
So I had like an iPhone SE before, SE2. Um, but to understand like how that AI makes decisions, like I don't know, like I use Hey, so I said, "Hey Siri, restart the phone," and then it pops up with a like question: "Do you want to restart the phone? Yes or no?"
Hmm.
And I think that's a really good thing for AI. Like you have a few contexts in mind,
Hmm.
and you're going to reference those contexts, but you don't initiate the action without a confirmation from the user.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's kind of the and that's the agent, that's the decision maker making decisions, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, it's like I don't know, like if you have a code editor or whatnot, then you can just start typing, and it'll just suggest everything for you, and then you gotta press tab.
That's true. That's
That's your
exactly
that's
true.
your go ahead.
But those code editors, I mean, they were worse before. I don't know if you feel like they would just suggest something and then it would like not be what
I've
I
uh, I've seen the new one, Cursor. Like I saw Anthony using it. I didn't really know what it was exactly, but he would just essentially start a script to give some object some logic or whatever. And he would declare the variables. He would write out kind of the first function, and then the next 8 functions on the script are just automatic. Like it saw that far ahead. Like I know exactly the behaviors you're trying to attach to this object, and I'm going to recommend literally the rest of the script for you. And it just
Yes, but that sometimes is really not good.
Yeah, that's the other thing is because, like I said, the AI is like still the most trustworthy on like a macro scale. It might set it up in a way that'll kind of bone you later, where you're like, oh, maybe I didn't want things set up this way. Maybe it'll have like an error in it that already conflicted with code you've previously written. You know, all that sort of stuff. But if you use it, for couple blocks at a time, it's not that bad of an idea. Also, I'll run into issues all the time. This is always something I've had, is when I have a question that is specific and I need to get it answered, and I will go to Google, and then I have to frame how I want to ask the question so that the Google search results give me back a page or an answer that I want. And now it's starting to become that Google isn't nearly as useful as ChatGPT, because I can ask ChatGPT, I can give it the context, and it'll hit me back with the exact answer, the exact article I'm looking for, and I don't have to filter through Google search anymore.
Yes, they have Gemini now,
Mm-hmm.
and I think, but what you're saying is 100. Like for me too, I use ChatGPT so much. It's an incredible tool
Yeah, it's crazy how far it's come in like just a couple of years. Like
because
I don't even remember when I first heard about it. Maybe it has only been 2 years. Maybe it's been longer. I don't exactly know.
It's been 2 years. 2022, right? I think it was November of 2022 it came out.
I don't
Or
know.
it was,
Everything since COVID's been a blur.
I think that's when 3.5 came out. And 3.5 was when people were like, fuck.
Dude, yeah, exactly. And then everyone just starts talking about it.
But I mean, I remember for me, 3.5 came out. It wasn't that big of a deal. And because it was still hallucinating a lot. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was, and especially for code, it was not writing good code. But 4.0 came out in like it came out earlier this year, maybe spring of this year or
That sounds
winter,
about right. Yeah.
and it was for me. It was the notice. It was significantly better, and it
Mm-hmm.
was very noticeable because the hallucinations just dropped a lot, and in coding, they'd actually was writing great code and went from writing like I don't even like this is like you're recommending me garbage, like this
Yeah.
is complete nonsense, to like no, now I like mostly don't code. Now I mostly do like architecture, I would say, is more of it.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
you're the designer,
You
you're
have to
the
know what to
architect.
ask, and you'll get
Yes.
something usable. But even then, you kind of have to go through it yourself in case it gives you something back, and you're just like, I don't know if I want to overall design my system like that. You might have to
Yes.
pull something out, but it'll at least get you like 80% of the way there.
So and also with like this logic, like sometimes in coding you've just got this like you want something done and then you have to code up the logic, and now like you just need to know the logic and
Yeah.
it will code up that function of logic for you. And that is a lot of thought power and time just to, I mean, just to create that function of logic and to be like, okay, the data goes this way and that way. But like that part, it like really does it for you. And that's why I say you can be more of an architect than an engineer, because those small little logic functions that like a developer would spend their time doing and figuring out,
Hmm.
I think it's becoming a lot more I mean, it's obviously becoming a lot more automated.
Yeah. And then that kind of brings the question, because this is what I wanted to cover, I guess, is how soon are we from the big switch? Because we're talking right now about how we've used, these sort of tools to automate a lot of our workflow. And I mean, I've worked in big tech before where, like, yeah, there's a lot of positions where people are literally doing nothing and they're just getting paid and whatnot. But assuming people who are doing less and less and people who are hired for an 8-hour workday are working 8 hours, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to need to find new things to do if certain aspects of work are going to take less time. And so that's kind of on the horizon. People are already like thinking about it, the whole Writers Guild strike. That was kind of a big moment, because it's kind of like, yeah, the unions are holding on, but it's not even just the Writers Guild. There's plenty of unions that have already
Port
kind of jumped in.
workers, the East Coast port workers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they got like some gnarly deal. They got like a 63% wage increase over the next 6 years, which is
Well,
nuts.
and they were concerned about AI taking their jobs. And I believe, I'm not sure exactly what happened.
Hmm.
Um, hold on. Port. But that was like a big thing. Like, we don't want our jobs getting automated. And I think that's a huge no for, I mean, people are obviously going to say no, but like,
Yeah, it's going to happen.
it's going
Like,
to happen.
there's all these companies right now refusing to do it. My company being one of them, and it is kind of a staunch belief. But like, all it takes is one company to be like, "We are gonna do it," and then once those profits are like visible in a public spectrum, then it's gonna be game over. Like, the dominoes are gonna fall. Just company by company is like, okay, we don't need this many artists, we only need this many artists. Everything's going to downsize. And that's like kind of where I guess the main fear is. And I think we're closer to that in tech than we are in manual labor jobs. I guess we can always build like some robots to do some things, on the manual scale, but like, I feel like that takes a lot longer and a lot more investment. Like, the whole reason software is so profitable is because you don't actually have like a product that is difficult to move places or to, assemble with parts, right? Like, you can start a software company and immediately it's essentially viable across the entire world, and you don't have to worry about shipping costs, you don't have to worry about transportation of raw goods or materials. It's just there.
And there's like no maintenance or, for a
Yeah,
hard,
there's no maintenance for the most part.
well,
Like,
there
there's
is. And
yeah.
there's no, one big thing is like if you have inventory or if you're working with hardware, um every moment is really expensive. You need somewhere to put that inventory, you need somewhere to develop that hardware. If one product cycle goes wrong, your entire company might die.
Yeah, and most likely it's not your company that's buying the AI
Yes.
robots that have. They're not making the AI robots that are replacing your work. You're buying them from a third party company, and they said, "Hey, we can get rid of a certain amount of your workforce with this thing we've constructed." And then when that breaks down, it's like, okay, well, now I got to go through channels to get this fixed that are not within my immediate power.
one robot that's definitely huge. I mean, we spoke about drone photogrammetry.
Hmm.
That's an inspection right there. So
Yeah.
now you don't really need inspectors. So
Yeah. It's
and
similar with like land surveying as well.
exactly.
There's a lot of
A-
like agricultural and like other geological surveys and stuff you can do via drone now.
And another thing in the property management industry with drones is window cleaners. There's a
Mhm.
company, I think, based out of San Francisco, that all they do is their whole product, I believe, is window cleaning drones, which is genius.
Yeah, that is kind of genius because it is a manual labor job. But is it AI or is there a dude behind the controls of each drone?
Well, that's kind of I would guess it's AI because the
Yeah.
photogrammetry is completely AI. And when we talk about AI, I think, that's not like there's many forms of algorithms
Yeah,
and many
exactly.
forms of like that because photogrammetry is completely automated. So I would
Yeah.
guess that also that is automated.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
it doesn't require learning past a certain point. So it's not fair to slap the label AI on it. It's because it doesn't have to like adapt. It has a preset function and it can do it on its own.
I think so. I don't know. I don't know much about their product. I just know that they
Yeah.
sell a drone that does window cleaning, and it's a really good idea
Hmm.
because window cleaning, I mean, it's crazy. You go up there with like a scaffold and you come down, it's gnarly.
I could never do it. Well,
Yeah.
that's probably also. I mean, those window cleaners probably get paid a lot too because there's a lot of people who wouldn't do it.
But now with the drone, why would you ever?
Yeah, well, I mean, you do it because you've been doing it and you make money doing it. But like, yeah, I mean, that's an industry that people don't think are of as being under threat because it's a small industry, but that's like just another domino to fall. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
across the country, it's going to happen bit by bit. And I mean, writers, sure, you can't really like just chat GPT and be like, here's a premise for a show. Just tell me, write me
No,
5 seasons. You
no.
can't do that on the macro level. But I think it's maybe a bad thing that they aren't using it for a tool. It's like,
Absolutely.
yeah,
I mean, I,
they're just like,
writers.
we need these two characters have been friends. We need something. Here's what's happened so far. We need something that makes them become enemies for a season, right? Like, what is the reason, right? You use it in that
Yes.
micro sense, and it'll come up with something.
I find it crazy that people like that don't use AI. It's so good for creatives. Like,
It is, but that's the bad thing. Is because like, let's say we have like, I don't know, 5,000. We'll just slap a number, 10,000 writers, right? And this automates a ton of their work. Um, unless it automates the entire production pipeline, like unless every part of the production pipeline can do some form of automation to take away, I don't know, let's say AI saves them 50% of their time. You technically only need half the amount of people working in the industry.
or you get twice the output.
You only get twice the output if the writers can be acted upon. Because like what if you can only produce a show at a fixed rate because other parts of the pipeline aren't replaceable or serviceable by AI yet? Yeah, you got a guy who's wrote scripts for 20 years of seasons of like one show, and you're only on season two, right? Like, at what point are you gonna have to up the filming process and all of that to start pumping things out? So like, it doesn't help that it's necessarily helping the writers. I'm sure there's other people in those.
Oh, I understand what you mean. Like,
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
too much content.
yeah. You could write like a motherfucker, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the show can get filmed at the same pace that you're putting out things. Right.
That
It has
makes a
to
lot of
go all
sense.
the way up the production pipeline to the point where filming also gets 50% more work done, and like management gets 50% more work done. And that's another thing that I was thinking of too, is like, I don't think management in general is that hard to automate either. And there's a lot of management positions out there.
No. Oh
And
man.
that might be the first to go, as you have you get hired and your manager is an AI overlord and he's like, hey, I need you to focus on this, this, and this today. We got this coming down the pipeline. And it's just like, yeah, I think that's like also around the corner. So
That, I mean, what I'm talking about, HOA, that's property management. Like,
yeah, exactly.
that's the property management industry. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I do believe that too. I think a lot of managers are, information providers, information facilitators. They
Mhm.
coordinate. And really, if you have, again, a right data schema and a
Yeah.
good workflow engine, then you're going to be able to provide a lot of that context to that software, and then that software can use AI to make decisions like a manager would.
Hmm. Yeah. And I know the earliest talks about this kind of big scare were like kind of during like the whole Yang running for president, right? He wanted to do that UBI because he was
In
like truck
2016,
drivers. Yeah, he's like truck drivers are going to be out of a job because self-driving cars are coming, which means self-driving trucks. So everyone's focused on that, but I don't even think that's realistically going to happen before AI starts automating other jobs out. Not
yes.
fully automating. I guess it in a trucker's sense, if you're a trucker and your truck drives 100% for you and does 100% of the work you were going to do as just a driver, that's different. Whereas other industries are going to be like, it's going to make these specialists 50% more efficient. And so we need to get rid of half of them.
You know what I just heard? I heard this recently though. Yeah, pretty much what you just said is that a lot of these jobs are pretty much going to get consolidated into like a single piece of software, and like all that wealth that was
Mm-hmm.
at these people is going to be transferred to
Just all to the
this
top.
yeah, all to the single software provider,
Yeah.
and
And to the
like
top. Yeah.
it's going to be really destructive.
No, and that's kind of scary. I know people like joke about AI overlords and whatnot, and AI going evil, some like iRobot shit. But like that's not the real. Like right now, we're kind of in like a economic struggle. I mean, it's the reason we talked about Trump getting elected last week as well. It's like there's a lot of people that are just kind of struggling right now, and
Yes.
they don't all have jobs that can't be automated either, you know? So like it could get a lot worse before like people really start to panic. And that's the scary thing. And the government needs to step in with more than $1,000 a month for doing nothing because that's not going to buy you shit.
You think so? Yeah, I I'm
I don't
we'll
think there's going to be enough space for people to adapt to everything that was lost because that takes a lot of time. You can't
yeah,
go
it
like
does.
you can't go 5 years unemployed. You know what I mean?
The the thing I worry about more than anything is just people, you have to be able to get new skills. And
Not
if
everyone
you,
can.
yes, not
Not
everyone
all the
can.
skills. This is the whole fucking thing that happened on Twitter where it was the hashtag learn to code. And that's what they were posting on fucking truck drivers' pages and shit. Everyone was complained about getting automated out by self driving trucks. There's a hashtag learn to code getting posted, like maybe unironically at first, but then people bandwagoned on it as like a joke. And then people using that hashtag were getting banned from Twitter
Oh
because it
man.
was just like, okay, you're a truck driver, maybe you can't learn to code. It's not within everyone's capacity to like
No,
go up to
it's
a
not.
high technical ability. I mean, especially with older generations.
Yeah.
We've been a little more brought up on tech, so we're a little more comfortable with it. But like people over 50 with zero technical background aren't going to pick up software engineering
Even
immediately.
ones with 100% technical background, if it's not,
Yeah,
if, they might
yeah.
not be able to, probably can't do it.
No, I mean, it's not a job for not everyone can be a brain surgeon. Not everyone can be like an engineer. Like there's a reason those jobs pay really well is because like it does require a ton of schooling that, you know, you can tell someone to go to school all of us went to school, but that doesn't mean that all of us came out of school with the same understanding of everything.
No.
Some
And
people were unable to pay attention due to like ADD, ADHD. Some people didn't want to pay attention because they didn't see anything that interested them. And some people try barely and they do really well. And some people try really hard and they do the same, but they had to put in a lot more effort.
yes. And work is way different than school too.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
you know, there's a lot of it's a really really different thing, and it's I think a lot of people have difficulty with work because the next step isn't necessarily defined for you.
Yeah.
Whereas for most of your life, and even if you get, even after you graduate, your next step is getting a job,
Hmm.
that's still like, okay, then I get a job. And then once I'm in the job, I'll have work defined for me. But
Hmm.
that's not always the case. And
Yeah.
sometimes if you need other people to define your work, you're going to find that they can't define it anymore, that
Oh, yeah.
they can't define how you're going to add value into their product. And that is a really dangerous position to be in. It's again, as you said, it's really difficult. And, some people can't do it. Most people probably can't do it. But if we are able to define the next goal in any sense, whether that be our company that we work at, whether that be, this is really about work,
Yeah.
you know, so wherever you work, if you're able to define the next thing to do to add value to the team and to the company, that will be a lot. And that's why like to go back to Rick Rubin,
Hmm.
who literally says doesn't know how to play an instrument, completely paid on his taste in music. And it's like, that's what you should strive to do. You should strive to make good decisions on a bigger stage. Be
Hmm.
an architect, a designer. Don't be a small little developer in this one path and this one, like, don't write one script, because that's going to take you 5 minutes with the
Yeah.
AI. Now you can write 15 scripts and architect designing it all, because that's what I said about the function and that block of code.
Yeah.
It's like you have an AI that defines your entire block of function.
Hmm.
So you just, it's like at this point, and I'm a systems engineer, quote unquote, so a lot of
Yeah.
what we do is diagramming, and that's becoming a huge thing, is like diagram driven workflows. It's very difficult, and I don't like most diagram driven workflow tools that I've seen are not very good.
Yeah.
And so that still has a lot of work to go towards, but you know it is kind of in that way where you kind of just have to define these blocks and then like the path across them.
Hmm. Well, I mean, like you said, you're always looking for a new goal because you're able to be more efficient with these tools. But let's say you didn't have those tools, right? Would you be okay with the pacing? Or basically what I'm getting at is would you have had to hire someone to fill those roles to make up for the
Oh,
inefficiencies you'd
yes.
experience? Exactly. So you're technically also already laying people off by not hiring them.
Yes.
Yeah, technically.
That I completely agree with what you're
And
saying.
so, yeah, that's also like something we haven't. I mean, we discussed, the possibility of mass layoffs when AI automates out like a good chunk of each tech workforce, but it also might just automate out smaller parts of smaller work. Maybe you don't need to hire a personal assistant. You work at a company of like 4 people. You do some like indie stuff. I don't even know, but maybe you don't need that assistant to help manage anything, right?
No.
That's one job gone. And you do that across the country, and my God, people are
Mm,
gonna need something to do. Which is why I'm pretty
Lawyers.
No, fuck lawyers.
No, I think lawyers are going to lose a lot of work.
Oh, yeah, lawyers. Yeah, because
You
you
just
don't
don't
need
need to reference them for the law anymore,
you don't
really.
need the legal aids as much.
What? Yes,
You don't need
legal
legal aids
aids.
as much.
Well, I'm just talking about, say you want some law advice. Like
Oh yeah.
now you don't have to go to a lawyer. Like, I mean, you really don't need to go and get like a what
Oh yeah,
thousand
you can get
dollar.
legal advice from ChatGPT.
Yes. And it will say it's not legal, it shouldn't be used, but it's still accurate. And
It's still accurate, and you can cross-reference it with something that isn't ChatGPT. You can
exactly,
plug it into
exactly.
some other. If all of them are reaching the same conclusion, that data didn't come from nowhere. There's no way ChatGPT made that up. But yeah, there's that, and I think gaming is the future.
What do you mean?
Because,
Gaming
well,
is the present too.
no, I
Ga-
think it's more of a future than present. Honestly, if you think it's big now, like wait until a large chunk of this country is unemployed and unskilled enough to get to the next level of employment.
what
And
about Asia? Asia loves gaming.
Asia loves gaming, but their government doesn't love gaming. Their government hates gaming.
Really?
Oh yeah,
What
China's nuts.
what do you
Like
mean they hate gaming?
if you're under 18, you're not allowed to. You need okay, first of all, in China and Korea, you need a government ID to play any game to verify
Whoa.
your age. Second of all, if you're under the age of 18, you get 1 hour of playtime on the weekend per week.
Whoa.
And
That's
then
crazy.
there's systems that have to be programmed into your games that, let's say, award, like let's say you get like experience at like just a normal rate, right? If you've played for more than 4 hours or whatever China deems is an unacceptable amount of playing time, that experience that you're getting at like, I don't know, 100 an hour is now going to drop like drastically until you're earning one experience per hour the longer you keep playing.
The games tier it back?
Yeah. Like each game is functionally different.
And
And
these are the
then
same games that are used in the West,
yes, well, sort of. They've been modified over there
like
because
Diablo?
Diablo, in order to sell a game in China specifically, you have to do it through a Chinese publishing company, and they determine what changes need to be made to your game for distribution, for legal requirements, for whatever. And
That's so
so
interesting.
that that stuff is more so done by them. But Blizzard, we pulled out because we got an unfavorable deal with NetEase at one point. And I don't know what the deal was, but we said, no, we're not going to do that. And then only recently we've partnered with them again. And they're our Chinese publisher. And
It's
so
too
we're,
big a
we're
market.
relaunching back in China. I mean, it's too big a market to get like bled out that long.
Yes. Oh, Scott,
Oh,
no. Oh, good, you're
we're
back.
good. I don't know if we came back and accepted like an even less favorable deal than the one we said no to or anything like that. That's way above my pay grade, but it's all like very interesting to think about. They don't want their people or citizens spending
Gaming.
time gaming because they know that it is kind of a waste of time. It is a waste of productivity. Um,
Yeah,
which I mean,
here,
I can attest to. Every moment you're gaming is not it's not something you're getting anything besides pleasure for yourself. It doesn't help build your community. It doesn't help clean your room. It doesn't help do the dishes, right?
no.
It doesn't help you learn new skills besides skills that are maybe applicable in gaming or game design. But
Elon Musk plays Diablo, supposedly.
dude, he's like top fucking 20 in the world or some shit.
Top 20 in the world. I heard you can pay your way up there.
I might have done something like that. I thought that was only on the mobile version though, which is a different game entirely. I think it was on Diablo 4, which means he's been grinding. I mean, I've heard him
It's
in interviews say that he was up until like 4 a.m. at his girlfriend's house. Like he'd come home from work, he'd be up till 4 playing Elden Ring, and then he would get like 3 hours of sleep and then go to work the next day at whatever company he was visiting. I
Wow.
think he hops around and whatnot. So he's a gamer, which is like it's pretty easy to tell. the
Really?
sign, the signs are there, dude.
What
Department of
signs?
Governmental Efficiency,
Oh my God,
right?
Doge.
Doge.
We'll see what happens there. I mean,
He's
there's
just
no. What
he's
go?
just a meme lord.
He's a meme lord for sure. He's a very smart meme lord that has created a profitable EV car company and a very, very high quality uh, space company.
The
And
space one's a little more impressive at this point.
the space one is a asset to the entire country. It's like
Yeah.
it turns him. I think SpaceX really makes him. I mean, he's obviously a national asset, but like SpaceX, oh, because I just read that there's a NASA system called the Space Launch System, and
Hmm.
it's supposed to do roughly what the heavy, what is it, the Starship, Starliner, I think. I forget what the name, the big one. It's like Starline.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, it costs about it costs under $10 million for a Starliner launch, and it costs over $2 billion for a space
NASA
for the
stuff.
NASA one. So the NASA,
Yeah.
I think, is now considering dropping that program.
Hmm.
And I mean, for Elon Musk, if you see something like that, if you know that you're launching rockets at what 500x minus what the government is,
Hmm.
uh and this is private space, like this is private, that's not even a public space company,
Hmm.
um or it's not a public company.
Well, I mean, that's why it's cheaper too. Is because like if you're a public company, you're probably not. That's like I think his whole reasons is he's making everything in house from engineering and parts manufacturing. Whereas like you could sell like a one hex nut to the U.S. government for like $50 if you wanted to. Like something that took you less than 25 cents to manufacture, you can sell to the U.S. government for $50 because they don't check the tab or like rack up the tab. It's also
Yes.
like the reason for the Department of Governmental Efficiency too. It's because a lot of these third-party contracts taken to the government are unfavorable. It's getting people rich in whatever company is paying for it. It's keeping the lights on for probably a lot of people who work in that third-party company. But at the same time, you're essentially just price gouging the government, and they can't do much about it. And so that's why it's like interesting to see this department get established. We'll see how it goes because
We'll see how it goes.
it could go a multitude of ways. It could go the exact opposite way as what I'm hoping. But you know, I think yeah, I'm not a huge fan of price gouging the government and being like, we spent this much money on missiles from Northrop Grumman, we spent this much on aircraft from here, and you just got to realize like, oh, they're charging like, if the government had the resources to make that in their own private slash public company, it would probably be the same multitude of cheaper as NASA to SpaceX.
Well, I think that I think I mean, I don't know. I don't know enough about contracting.
Mm-hmm.
I think, the deficit spending's out of control. And
Yeah.
that's not just defense. That's a lot of things. That's health. It's mostly actually medicine and Medicare and Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
70, I believe 70% of it is like Medicare, Social Security, and the military. And the military is about 18%. And then the other 30% is like other stuff. But
Yeah.
and that's between discretionary and non-discretionary spending. So, people, yeah. So I'm not going to get into that, but
Yeah. Yeah. It's a topic for maybe another time.
yes, it's it's too much. I mean, it's too much for us. I think again, going back to the election,
Mm-hmm.
young men are young men particularly are tired of it. I think a lot of people were drawn to Trump because he talks about the economy, he talks about this stuff. I mean, can he solve it? That's a huge question. At least he
Yeah.
spoke about it. At least he said this is an issue. He said Maybe we'll, you just have to make comments like, maybe we'll throw some Bitcoin at the debt. It's like
Yeah.
just making that comment affects.
It gives people some amount of hope because these are
Yes.
issues that have been talked about by my dad when I'm in like elementary school. It's like the government's spending too much money. And then all of a sudden there's a candidate up there being like, I have a solution. No one else has said they had a solution before. They always say like reduce government spending, but like,
Yes.
so it's kind of like a big light bulb moment for me. I don't really know. My dad kind of was a Trump supporter, and then halfway through his first presidency, he's like, I fucking hate this guy.
Really?
So,
What's the reason?
oh, he just doesn't like him as a person. I mean, honestly, the reason most people hate him.
Yes. That is.
And I mean, that's enough. It's a valid
It is.
reason to not like someone if you're like, oh, I don't like anything about them.
That's valid reason,
Yeah,
yes.
it's a valid reason. But yeah, and so it's crazy to hear that. It's crazy to hear like the immigration stuff. Although I do have some friends who are here illegally, and
Wow.
but I don't think it's really going to affect them. There's not really an easy way to deport that many people. It's gonna start with the people who have most recently arrived and the people who are the least who are counterproductive in the society, at least.
And
You can
yes.
only get so many people in 4 years.
I really it we'll see how that goes. I
Yeah.
think that being from in San Diego, I've seen you go to a trolley station. At least it's not like this now, but a few
Hmm.
months ago, you went to a trolley station and you would see like a group of 40 migrants, and you're just like, whoa, like,
Yeah.
whoa. Like, and then you would go downtown, and then you would just see like an encampment. But this encampment wasn't of homeless people or of, I mean, they were obviously homeless, but it wasn't like what we usually saw as
What we usually see. It's not people who are, already drug addicted and
Americans,
stuff.
yes, drug
Yeah.
addicted, psychotic. It
Psychotic.
it looked like a group of migrants camping out in a trolley site, like
It's
50
probably like how
migrants.
we'd want our homeless encampments to look, like somewhat organized and somewhat more of a community.
It yes. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's I'm I'm not sure how that's going to go.
Yeah. Um, Still iffy, but like, yeah, it's not to mention like this is probably a topic for another time as well. Immigration's pretty big, homelessness is pretty big.
Yes, it is a topic
Yeah.
for another
And
time.
if we're struggling to come up with something for a week, we can always maybe focus our efforts more there. But my point is gaming is the future because the future most jobs are going to get replaced AI wise. And there's
Wow.
not really going to be a fallback. And so recreational activity, just like during COVID, is going to be the main profit drivers in those will spike.
Recreational activity will definitely
We'll
spike.
see Peloton spike again. We'll see bike shop spike. We'll see golf spike. We'll see gaming spike.
I think it's going to be really interesting. I could also see none of it really changing that much too. I could
Well,
see people like still at like 3 to 5% unemployment. You just have robots and AIs, and it's just like I
we're
could
just gonna
also.
pay you to do nothing, or
I don't think so. I think there will be like these jobs that really are like not that hard. Like I think AI could provide easy jobs for us. I don't know how, but I just feel like people, if like say that company, I really don't know, dude. Maybe it's all screwed up. Oh, I really but you know, there were a lot of things. I heard the printing press was also a big deal. Like people thought this was going to be revolutionary and destroy things.
I mean, what happened with that? I mean,
What?
obviously we print. We don't use the printing press anymore anyway. But
No.
what happened?
What
Where
do
did
you mean
people
what
go?
happened?
Well, okay, printing press automated probably quite a few people out of jobs, but where did they go? Is there still enough demand for work in the country?
It might be a generation thing too. It might be
Yeah.
like, you know, I think millennials kind of got the short end of the stick. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, we don't have the best work ethic either, where a lot of people, I feel like in our generation, we're expected to not do certain types of jobs.
Like
Or
which ones?
like I don't know, potentially hard labor. Like I'm thinking of it in the context of, let's say a lot of blue collar labor gets deported due to illegal immigration. Is anyone going to fill those roles from our generation?
Yes. I really believe the answer to that question.
100% though, or do you think there's going to be a lot of apprehension?
I think people will be broke, and I think they will have.
People will do anything to stop being broke.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
they will like any job, and yeah, I think people would take it. I mean, you're not gonna just die.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
not
yeah.
just gonna starve and die. It's like
Well,
there's
you're gonna riot. You're gonna
yes,
vote for the candidate. You're gonna vote for the Yang, and you're gonna get
or the
that monthly
Trump.
deposit.
I mean, some people feel exactly this way and want to vote Trump.
Yeah, but we're talking years from now when I don't know how many people. I'm just throwing numbers, but let's just say unemployment goes up dramatically because of AI replacement. Then you have a much larger voter base that's going to be like, I need to make more than just unemployment checks.
Yes.
Yeah, to hold on to what I have, or to maybe don't have anything.
And one other thing regarding this is the gender divide. I think across the party lines, I think that that might play into it too. I'm not really sure. We don't really need to go into.
Yeah.
Well, actually, this is something that I did want to speak about because I actually do. A lot of people speak about how men and women have different brains and they think differently and their brains have different skills.
Yeah.
I actually believe that, this might be very controversial, but I don't think it is. I think AI mimics a woman's brain closer than a man's brain. And it's because I think women tend to be better managers, they tend to be better coordinators, they tend to
Hmm.
be better communicators, they tend to be able to intake information from multiple parties and kind of just pick a direction.
Yeah. Okay, I
And
see what you're saying there. I don't think it should necessarily be framed that way. I think that's maybe a way to frame it where people might get a little too salty before they read below the headline. You know what I mean?
well, do you know who Tristan, the guy who got fired from Google for saying
Yes, yes,
something?
yes, yes. That guy.
It's pretty similar to that, and it's nothing disrespectful at all.
No, no, no.
It's, I think
I
it's
don't think you're wrong either. At least until I don't know, because what was the whole argument? The whole argument is it's like a Jordan Peterson thing, but it's like essentially women gravitate towards more social roles in the workplace, and men gravitate more towards material roles in the workplace. And that's
exactly,
just like on average. Obviously, there's outliers, but you know, also like men have higher rates of autism,
exactly.
which is like the definition of insanely material focused, right? Or object focused. And I don't know, it's just kind of a society thing. You see it happen all the time. How many movie plots have you seen where there's like a kid who wants to hang out with his dad, but his dad's just like, I need to work. I'm too focused on work.
And so that's kind of me. It's like women are exceptional communicators and they're
Mm-hmm.
exceptional managers. I think, I've worked with women and they tend to be, very good at coordinating people and very good at managing people and making decisions and bringing parties together to like just work together.
Yeah.
And so that seems like something that AI can do. It seems like AI can really coordinate with one person, coordinate with another person, and then make a decision from that.
Are you
Because
saying
even, well, go.
are you saying that maybe the near future of AI is going to go back to the single income family household because women are going to get laid off first?
Well, look at my industry, the property management industry. It
Mhm.
is has a, there's a lot of women in the property
Oh
management
yeah. Oh yeah.
industry, and my company's looking to automate that. And I'm not saying that it's not like so that's kind of just what I see. You spoke about it.
With
The
management in general. Yeah.
what?
Well, I said management is like not that hard to automate out with
Well,
almost our current level of AI.
exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas hard engineering development,
hmm
software development, like yeah, you can write this line of code or software architecture,
Yeah.
um, and these more material based. I mean, look at it. We use chatbots, Chat GPT. Its name is Chat GPT. It's a social software.
That's true.
Whereas, and you mentioned it too, like women gravitate towards social roles in the workforce. Men gravitate towards more material roles in the workforce. So just that alone, it makes, and again, I'm not saying anything other
Yeah, yeah.
than AI seems to mimic a woman's just yeah, I guess you can't really
No,
say it without
no,
being
no.
controversial.
Here's how you want to say it. You want to say that AI tends to do a good job in positions that tend to be positions or fields that are currently female dominated.
That would be great. Let's just
Yeah.
go with that. But it just has the skills that women are better at. Women are
Yeah.
better communicators. Women are better, you know, I would say managers. I've always thought, not always, but at one point in my career, I realized, wait, women might be better at, coordinating multiple people and getting them to do some work. Maybe they're not good at like being aggressive. So, because in the workforce, sometimes that gets you higher up or I'm not going to continue just on this route, but
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
think
No,
that,
I get what you're saying,
you
but
know,
yeah.
I
No,
do think
I think
that
you're in line with it. I mean, I'm trying to think of like real work examples that I've had, but
teaching,
it's a little difficult because I'm in an industry where it's like it's niche enough that everyone there is like pretty good at everything. It doesn't seem like they gravitate towards one style or another, you know.
what do you mean gravitate towards one style or another?
I would say gravitate towards management versus engineering
Well, I was on a
or
team
production.
and we had like testers and versus develop. I'm not going to continue, but I do think that there are gender divides across the workforce, and I do think that people will see across, certain gender divides. Like in my opinion, you can see that the AI really does, you know, some things that women tend to do better than men in the workforce
Yeah.
well.
Yes. No, that is another interesting thing to bring up that I hadn't really considered. But I think we are getting close to that horizon event where one company is going to start using AI pretty aggressively. It might even be my company. I don't know. It doesn't
Not
help
even
that.
why just one. I think there's many companies that are doing that.
Yeah, but I think among the bigger corporations, it's going to become it's a taboo thing currently, and the taboo is going to end the second someone decides that hey, we don't abide by the taboo. We're actually going to start to use AI and downsize.
I
And
think
once they do that, I think every company will follow. But everyone
Steve
right now is scared to take that first step because it's not moral and we maybe don't have the safety net in place governmentally or company wise to
catch the amount of people who are going to be affected.
But there are multiple companies who've fired, multiple thousands of employees and have directly referenced AI. It's already happened.
Yeah, but
I think there's at least one company I know of who dropped their workforce by 10% and said this is because of, we can't deny that AI had a part to this.
no, and yeah, so I think the dominoes will fall. I'm trying to think of like the biggest ones, like Google, Facebook, Microsoft tend to be more on the we're not going to do it, but it's what they're all about. Everyone in there is passionate about technology. There's probably people in there who will get laid off that are like, I can't wait for AI to take over,
Yes.
And yeah, so I think the dominoes are falling currently, but
The first dominoes.
Once it becomes the norm, right? Once you start to see the outcome, once these companies look at the profits of these companies who have replaced their workforce with AI, and they see quarter and quarter again, it's like, oh fuck, you can't compete with this. Shareholders are gonna demand it, right?
I think yes.
And then
you got to be willing to eat
dominoes
yourself.
do it. Yeah.
As a company, I mean, Steve Jobs said that all the time, and he always did that with his products. He always created a new product. Like no one bought an iPod Touch after the iPhone came out.
True.
So you got to be willing to eat your own products, and you got to be willing to do that all the way down, or someone else will. And because I mean, these startups, like you look at the startups now, like granted, too many startups are just like AI, and it's like when I see a startup whose name has AI in the startup, I'm very, very skeptical. I think like what like that's your whole thing, like AI, like
it's the popular word right now. I feel like it's if you have some business savvy and can come up with something and you have an AI driven company, it's probably not that hard to gain venture capital.
No.
Yeah. And so it's like it's good. It doesn't mean it's going to work out, but that's like it is something that a lot of people are going for, and it's something that a lot of people are competing for right now.
What you said is a great point. And being in the startup game, I've kind of gotten out of like that whole mentality, like the founder mentality and like being there. But there are some people who just all they wanted, like this guy started up 4 times and he just raised his venture 4 times and every single time it's failed. It's like, dude, you're not good at starting up.
Does he
this is
get
a metaphorical
acquired or
person.
no?
This is a metaphorical person.
Oh, okay, medical. But
Yes.
Are you basing it on someone?
Yes, I'm basing it on multiple people. There are multiple people who just build startups and
multiple people that you know though.
Yes.
Okay.
But not even like you go into the startup, I don't really know them, but you see them and like you go into like a startup network like you go into a startup network and you start seeing all these people's experiences and you're like, oh, you started up 3 times, oh, you started up 4 times, oh, you started up another 3 times, and now you're just here. It's like these people are sharks.
Keep getting venture capital.
Exactly.
How do you after the first startup goes south, like who's giving these people capital, man?
Dude, I've heard, I mean, I see a lot of memes about venture capital and I'm not sure, but it's like venture capital today is nothing like what it was before, like 20-30 years ago.
Yeah, because people have the knowledge to put something on paper that's going to sound good, sound complicated, sound cutting edge, when in reality it's literally what everyone else is doing.
Yes. Literally the same thing, has no moat, has no product market fit. These guys just want to be bought out. They want to be bought out. They want to be a billionaire. They want to have that romance of being a startup that made it after all this time. And it's like, dude, I don't know. It's like you have to be a little bit more real. And I mean, AI is very important. Like it's a huge part of my company and it will be, but you have to understand the technology and how that technology is going to interact with your customer.
Yeah. And like I don't know. I mean, when you're saying AI company and stuff, then clearly the intention of a AI startup is to build their own AI software.
Yes, but you know,
I don't know how easy that is on a scale of 1 to 10. You know what I mean?
I think again, I'm going to go back to what I've been saying this whole
Yeah.
time: data schema and workflow engines.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like what you want, like Gmail workflow engine. Granted, it's very different, but like you have these things, these software that does something, and it has data running through that process.
Mm-hmm.
And just if you do that, that data, if it's appropriately managed, should be able to go to another piece of your software which has AI and do things, make decisions, communicate.
Mm-hmm.
But like if you just say AI and just like it's gonna happen,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like
You gotta have the plan for how to best use it, and it seems like you have the functionality you want down, and you're planning ahead as well for future functionalities.
I I just don't like startups that have the name AI in them. I
Yeah,
really don't.
because you
Like
don't know what it could be. It could be like some very cutting edge shit, or it could be some dumbass who just got a bunch of venture capital. Is like, this is exactly what's gonna happen, and it's
it's
not.
just dumb. It's just
Yeah.
dumb. Like open AI makes sense to me. Like I
Mhm.
get it. You were like the first company. You were founded by Elon Musk in 2016. Like that was a long time ago. But when you have like these companies coming out in 2023 and 2024 and their name is just, you know, whatever AI or AI dot gonna kill, just gonna destroy the industry or whatever. um I just, it's just too much of a hype word. Like it should, like, granted, if you're not building for AI, then you probably shouldn't be starting up, but you should not. I personally think most startups that have that word pretty much just were like, oh, AI is going to be incredible, boom, and then it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, you gotta have someone who's like maybe more into AI as like a CEO. You have to know everything around it, and you can't just be the man with the money and being like, this is going to be successful because this is all people are talking about. Like you gotta know the intricacies. You gotta hire the right people, and that's
Yes.
all. That's all where it gets a little more difficult, especially because this is something we haven't talked about. People just write their resumes and cover letters with AI now.
Really? I
Yeah,
do that.
I do that too.
Yeah, my last resume was written with an AI for sure.
Yeah, my resume looked so crap because I haven't touched it in like a long time, and now it looks more professional than I could have ever come up with. I just helped with like the layout and design of where everything would go, but yeah,
I
like
think yes. It's
it's that much easier to look overqualified now because or qualified in general for positions that maybe you shouldn't be applying for. Maybe you shouldn't get hired for. So that's another drain on work and startups is, I mean, obviously college and high school students are now probably using it for everything, papers wise.
I
Um,
can't imagine. I
I
wouldn't
think
do anything.
yeah, I think there's like some detection systems or whatever that can tell if your
There
paper's
is,
AI
and
or
it's
not.
really accurate. I've used them. And
Yeah,
because when I was generating AI, I was like, I just need this to not be plagiarism. I don't give a
yeah,
shit if it's 100% AI detected. I just need this to not be plagiarism.
yeah.
So, yeah, those systems, I did that with like some writing, and they can tell if it's AI, but luckily it's not plagiarized. None of it's plagiarized, which is incredible.
And how much accuracy can it tell if it's AI? Like, let's
Well, a
say
lot of
you
it's
only
wrong.
use like certain parts, right? Let's say you just take like 30% of what was given to you, you use that in an essay, and you fill in the rest with your own words and whatnot. Will it come back as like 30% AI? Will it come back as none because now you've thrown it a curveball?
I think it'll be 30%. If it's just a block like that, I
Mm-hmm.
think based off of what I how the tool I used, it would detect if it was like 30. If it's like you got like a couple sentences here and then a couple, I don't know, possibly not. But if
Yeah.
it's just like a 30% block of AI,
Hmm.
yeah, even like 10, 15%, I would say it could probably, I don't know, I haven't done those tests, but the tool that I use seemed to be able to do something like that. If it was like a continuous uh line of dialogue,
Yeah.
continuous line of script. If it's just like these intermittent sentences, probably not. That would
So I think it's probably fair to say that people are still using it. They might just be chopping it up to the point where, if those tools are even free to use, someone's done the testing around it.
school. I mean, the new. I like to go back to like, or I was thinking of Futurama, like
Hmm.
Fry and Bender. Like, you better get used to being with a robot because that's probably your future. So these kids not learning to work with ChatGPT, it's like, I mean, yeah, if there's an apocalypse, then they're screwed. But like, unless that happens, these kids are going to be using AI for the rest of their life. So just
Yeah,
let
it's
them.
like the new computer, right? It's like
Exactly.
it's like typing class. I think they stopped teaching typing class the
Hopefully,
the
they'd stop
year
teaching cursive
after
too.
I took it. And I
Really?
remember cursive as well. Yeah, cursive was supposed to be some big thing in elementary school, and they're like, you're going to be taking all your notes in cursive, yada yada. You learn it in like I think third grade in general, and then I think they
I
just
was like,
stopped doing it. No one asked me to write anything in cursive for the like after I learned it.
I was
Never
so
happened.
bad at cursive. My teacher was like, she probably thought I was retarded or something because she
Mine was
just.
bad. I would always write freehand, like in the notebook for college. Like I did use it sort of, but like my cursive handwriting was pretty bad. I would just be able to identify like 60% of each word I wrote, and that was enough to kind of piece together entire sentences, and I could write it
Wow.
pretty fast. But I wasn't the type like bringing my laptop to class or anything like that. I wasn't even the type to go to class, honestly. But that's maybe a story for another time.
Oh man.
But yeah.
Well, Scott, do you have any questions or any notes that you want to leave the audience with?
Whew, notes. I don't know, man. Everyone should probably learn how to make video games because layoffs are coming.
Layoffs are coming.
Layoffs are coming. There's not necessarily a job replacement in the
No.
workforce, and all people are gonna do all day is either art, which can already be done by AI. So don't bother with art. You can do writing, which can also be done by AI. I
You
don't
have
know.
to think bigger. You have to
There's
think
only so
way,
many
way
outlets you
bigger.
can have. You're gonna have to do like physical art or like modern art, just sell three-dimensional pieces. You're gonna have to find something to do with all your recreational, unemployed free time.
We're all gonna have to go back to blue collar work.
I think a lot of people are gonna default to video games though for a few years before they're like, "Fuck, I gotta pick strawberries."
Maybe
Yeah,
pick strawberries, dude. We could just
that
there's
was
other
a
work, right?
yeah. I know. I'm still kind of thinking about what's gonna happen with Trump deportations, but I know that's just a generic job. You could do other blue collar work, but like no one's gonna want to do that immediately.
Landscaping.
You're gonna wait until you're out of all your money, all of your savings, and you're gonna be like, "Fuck, I need to stop applying for tech jobs, and I just need to go like clean people's houses or fucking I don't know, work at a bar."
Working at a bar, people will still get drinks. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, because people also want someone to talk to. I think the service industry is pretty safe. Although I did read I did read that the service industry has AI protections built into their union.
Wow.
I don't know
Well,
what they're expecting. I think they're seeing
speaking,
like those Japanese robots going around with the trays and shit.
yes. Well, AI girlfriends are going to get huge. People, I always tell my friend his next girlfriend is going to be an artificial intelligence, and it's probably true.
Yeah, it might be
So,
true. It's a little depressing, but Japan's done worse. Well, maybe worse. I think
What
it's
do you
more.
mean?
I think it's more socially acceptable to have an AI girlfriend than maybe going out in public and paying someone to pretend to be your girlfriend for like 2 hours
In this country or in Japan?
in Japan. And I don't
Okay.
mean that in like a prostitutional sense. I mean that in like but we're going to the park.
Really?
Yeah, they have things like that where you can pay people to like cuddle with you.
Wow.
Like they have a loneliness epidemic, and we might be next.
We, I,
We might
that
already be there, honestly.
we honestly might be there. The gender divide is pretty stark amongst young people. I've heard that young men, the Gen Z men, are pretty not. I've heard the gender divide amongst young people. It seems to be huge, and it's really interesting. It's really sad, but you know, what are you gonna do?
Thailand, baby.
Thailand. That's where Scott's going next, right?
No, I
That's
don't need
gonna.
to. I don't need to go. I just need to find someone in Thailand who's willing to come here.
Oh wow,
Right? That's always on the list. That's
that's
like
all.
that's like 37, 38. You're still single. Fuck it.
You're
It's time
talking
to look
about.
overseas.
You're talking about. Wow. Well, I don't know if I'm gonna comment on that.
Well, it's an option, dude.
And okay, so going to what you said, that's the beauty about being an American.
Yeah.
Because America, like we might look at the rest of the people in our country and think, dang, I'm not that rich. But then you look abroad and you're like, oh, I'm still
Yeah.
pretty rich. Like, granted,
They're
like,
they're stoked. They might be hoping for more. I know I've seen those like 90-day fiancés with it's always Eastern Europeans. I seen one on like HGTV too when they're like looking at houses and the guy's like, I met her on an online website and she's like Eastern European and she's like, I think we get this house, and he's like, I can't afford this house, and she's like, no, I think we get this house.
oh my God.
they're a little more money centric in Eastern Europe and Russia, that's for sure. But yeah, I don't know. Southeast Asia, who knows? Who knows? Hopefully, I don't have to find out, but it is an option.
Yes, hopefully, again, AI girlfriend too is probably. I think they're already out. I think that AI girlfriends are already out.
Well, you
And
can probably just ask ChatGPT to pretend it's your girlfriend, and this is gonna be pretty much the same thing.
yeah, pretty much, pretty
But
much.
no one
Hopefully,
saw the
go.
the new Blade Runner, and
Oh,
was
I
like,
saw it.
well, I know, but no one saw it and be like, I can't wait till AI Ana de Armas is my girlfriend, right?
Dude, I mean, I I don't know, man. I think it's really different. I think Gen Z is living a very different life. I think the gender divide wasn't so stark when we were younger, and so you, when you go through all 4 years of high school and all 4 years of college with not real like because without assimilating with other sex, it you know
Kind of stunts you.
it doesn't just stunt you, but I've heard that young men are more apprehensive towards women, and so it I guess that is part of stunting. That is a stunting thing
Yeah.
because
I mean,
you
those are also the last times you see women in close proximity on a regular basis.
yes,
In
other
in
than
an
workplace.
environment where dating and or flirting are not taboo.
Yes,
Within the workplace, it becomes taboo again.
in the
You might
workplace.
you might see girls around and whatnot, but it's like there's always like HR being like, you better fucking watch it.
And that wasn't the case when the boomers were in the workforce. It was much less taboo back then.
Yeah, there was also a lot more sexual harassment, but
That's true. That's true. But I
um,
guess the point that we want to bring is it's completely taboo today. And so
I wouldn't say
those
completely, but I think
it's not.
it's off of a lot of people's minds.
It's not even off of their mind as much as it's just like it's on their mind, but they will never, ever, ever act on it because the
Yeah,
risk is too high.
I guess that's what I meant. Is like it's somewhere in the back of their mind where it's like, you know.
But it's a good thing. It's probably a good thing. We're not women, so I can't really comment on that.
I wouldn't want to see my ex at work every day.
No. No, I wouldn't either. But I guess the point is, this is a huge time to socialize and become like you said, it's not taboo in any sense. You're in college, the other, girl, things happen and they're very normal. And so
Yeah.
if you go through 4 years of not just normalizing yourself to women, it's going to be dangerous. And so you get into AI girlfriends and it's like, whoa. Are you ever going to talk to a real woman, or is this really the life that you're gonna live?
Yeah, I still don't think it's gonna take as well as I know it's kind of gonna be a big thing, but I don't think it's gonna be like a pandemic or a problem.
I don't think so either. I think it'll be a select few individuals who but the gender divide is really stark. It's really stark amongst young people.
I know. Yeah, this is probably something we save for next time because I don't
Yes.
know entirely what the gender divide entails. I understand there is a division between what men want and what women want, and that's maybe the big division in general. Society hasn't really caught up to it yet.
Well, it's mostly young people. It's not really as high on the older spectrum.
Yeah. Well, social media doesn't really help. You
No,
know, there might be
doesn't.
someone who you think is attractive, and then at age 22, she gets invited out on a yacht, and you can't do that. You're a dude. No one wants you on their yacht. And then that's when you come to the realization. You're just like, oh shit, she can do anything, and I'm stuck here. Time to grind.
Oh man, Scott. You said it, man. You said it, dude. That is I believe that Gen Z women are 2.6 times more likely to be in a relationship than Gen Z men. So
That seems about right.
yes. And so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I don't, like you said, whether it's AI girlfriends, AI taking everyone's jobs.
There's
Maybe
an upset.
What?
There's an upset, and it's coming. I just don't know when, but it's maybe sooner than I initially expected.
Hopefully not.
I thought it was going to be like 8 years, 10 years, but like.
You think 4 years?
I think in the next 2, something big's going to happen.
I'm ready.
It's halfway through the next presidency. It's also like I said, dude, 2 years ago, AI was like, oh, that's kind of neat. And now it's like, oh, this is insanely useful. In 2 more years, it's going to be like, this is
taking my job.
This is necessary. And
not
if
even
you're
necessary.
Not on board, you're gone.
Gone.
And if you are on board, some of you are gone.
Yes. I mean, that's the thing.
Unless your company knows how to scale like production. Like we were talking about with like writers. It's like, sure, ChatGPT can make you write 20 seasons in the same amount of time it would take you to write one. But realistically, you're not filming 20 seasons in like a month. You know what I mean?
No. You're right. Well, yeah. I mean, diversity of skills, like those writers should become actors and then film producers as well, and then start acting in their own stuff.
You could do everything. It might be time for the Swiss Army citizen.
I think so. And even I think so. I think people are going to have to be the Rick Rubin of, of their music. They're just gonna have to be like, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, and you
Yeah.
can't really like, you can't be a guitarist anymore. You can't just do piano. You can't just do bass. You can't just do drums. You got to do everything, and you got to be the designer, the architect, and you just got to make those authoritative decisions.
Mm-hmm. True. Well, I think we've said enough. It's I know last week we only did 40 minutes, but like I don't know. I think we're
Good
both a
to
little
go.
bit more knowledgeable and more interested in the implications of AI long term. And yeah, so it made sense that the conversation flowed this well for this long.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it was a good conversation, Scott. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.